Hello, my name is Garrett, and I am the managing partner of Social Architect. And I'm creating this video to go through the Revealing Withholds PowerPoint for two reasons. For people in the Provibers community that were not able to attend the 2-workshop series that we just finished, so that you can at least get a little bit of a grasp on what withholds are. And the second intent of this video is for people that attended the workshop series to get to go back to what we already went over. And also, I didn't have a chance to share the advanced withhold skills at the end of the session last time because we ran out of time. So if you were present for the workshops and just want to skip ahead in the video to the advanced slides, you can do that. And you can also, there should be a link in an email that gets forwarded with this video to follow along on the PowerPoint on your own time. And this is my first run through doing this with video, first draft. So I'm giving myself permission to be a little bit messy and just really like riff on a lot of these slides. And I'm not sure how long this is going to take, but here we go. Okay. Revealing Withholds Provibers Edition. This was created by myself and Alon Gaussier. Alon, I've never asked you how to say your last name. Yeah, this was like hugely co-created between the two of us, and I'm super appreciative towards Alon for so much like creativity that came from that work that we did together. And a lot of the credit and resources goes to a lot of these people and these books, especially to the whole movement behind authentic relating is a lot of where this stuff comes from. So this is what we went over in the first workshop. What is a withhold? A withhold is anything I choose not to share that impacts the quality of our connection. A more full definition of this is a thought, emotion, sensation, or fact that I'm aware of and choose not to share with someone that impacts our quality of connection, integrity, aliveness, or personal growth. But in the most simplest way, it's when, basically when I'm not sharing with someone, it's not lying. So withholding is different from lying. It's a little bit more covert because a lie, you can tell like if it's wrong or right. But a withhold is just an internal experience I'm having in connection with someone. Maybe it's a judgment. Maybe it's some kind of feeling that I'm not sharing with them. And that because I don't share that with them, it impacts our quality of connection. And maybe I withdraw just a little bit because I'm not sharing that with them. And then of course, in the expanded definition, it can also affect integrity, aliveness, or either of our personal growth if it's some piece of feedback that we're withholding from sharing with each other. So examples of withholds, times that I'm feeling resistant or overwhelmed when someone has asked me out for tea, times that I felt attracted to my friends or housemates. So yeah, just these themes behind like resistance, overwhelm, attraction, judgments, resentment, feeling distracted while listening to someone and feeling confused. If I feel bored, it's very rarely named. Say I'm chatting with a friend and I'm like, I feel bored in connection with you right now. It's often like a withheld feeling. And usually if someone names boredom, usually things are not boring anymore. Is something I take away from that. An example is when a friend asked to kiss me, I felt tension in my chest and throat. So I got a chance to reveal that was like a withheld sensation I was having. Feelings of curiosity, admiration, frustration, or judgment. Yeah, these are all examples. So I'm not going to go over the ground rules. That was more so for the session. This model is something I created based off of an original model from Dr. Gay Hendricks. And so just to follow it around, basically there's two different cycles that I can be in while in connection with someone. I can be on the withhold side, on the left side, or I can be on the reveal side of this model. So whenever I have an internal experience, a thought, sensation, emotion, judgment, I have a choice. As long as I'm aware of it, I have a choice. And in that choice, I can choose to withhold or I can choose to reveal. And often if I choose to withhold, I start to build more, so always behind a withholding is fear. There's some kind of fear. It's something to take away. So when I withhold, often I start to mistrust and hide my emotions, like hide myself a little bit more. I start to build a little bit more mistrust. And emotionally, I withdraw a little bit. I become less, I feel less connected with that person. And often I might even, if it's around judgments that I'm not sharing, I start to lack curiosity about them and just to believe my assumptions are right. And I just keep projecting onto them what my judgments are and finding more evidence to validate those assumptions. And then this cycle continues in withholding, which just leads to more and more withdrawal. So if I can become aware of what I'm withholding, that brings choice, and I can choose to reveal instead, go this path of courage. And perhaps revealing can lead to more trust, letting myself be known and seen. So if I want to be seen, to feel seen, feel known, I need to first let myself be known. And that takes a level of courage and vulnerability to reveal myself. And that can build trust. And through that can bring me into more connection and intimacy. I can check my assumptions, get curious, and also start to own my projections rather than just believing my assumptions are right. So really what's here is trying to move more of my relationships more towards this revealing side and less towards this withhold side. And something to note here is that an update I made afterwards to this model is that, of course, this is like way too simple. It doesn't always work this way. When I reveal that it always leads to connection. Often if I reveal and it looks more like this squiggly with the staying in contact. So I reveal and maybe it brings up a lot of emotions and we don't feel connected. Maybe we even feel more angry with each other and triggered. And as long as we stay in contact, my belief is that we'll come to some space of like acknowledging our common humanity and finding a place of connection with each other. And especially through starting to own some of our own shit in that process. But if we lose connection, if we lose contact, we can just go back into this withhold cycle, which I'm sure you've probably experienced both sides of these. Consequences of withholding. Withdraw, we've already talked about that. Other consequences of withholding, feeling anxiety. So if anxiety, numbness, blocks in creativity, it inhibits personal growth. So with anxiety, for me, I often feel anxiety around others when I notice there's a high level of withholding. So if I'm constantly trying to guess where I stand in connection with someone else, especially in an intimate relationship, because I'm suspicious that they might be withholding something, I'm aware that I'm withholding something, like it just creates this anxiety. So when I'm in a revealing relationship, it reduces anxiety because we know where we stand in connection with each other. Withholding also kills aliveness. So there's a lot more like aliveness and flow in a group that is constantly revealing and can have a higher capacity for truth and candor with each other. And it's, in the same way blocks creativity, it blocks life force and authenticity is sapped. And then if I'm in a space with low candor, like low honesty and withholding, it's likely that we they are very conflict avoidant and avoid giving each other honest feedback. And therefore, I'm in a space that I don't have the opportunity to grow as much. So yeah, just go back in. So key takeaway here is that if I notice myself withdrawing, feeling withdrawn in connection with someone, it's likely that there is some kind of withhold. It's not always the case, but it's often that either they're withholding something or I'm withholding something. So if I'm like, wow, I'm feeling withdrawn in connection with this friend or this person that my partner or someone I've like felt so much closer with, I check in with myself, I'm like, am I withholding something from them? And usually the answer is yes. And then if I choose to reveal, there's probably something that they're withholding, and then it can give us a chance to come into connection with each other again. So fear is behind every withhold. I choose to withhold because of fear of losing approval, control, or security. That's all mentioned on this slide. Staying in contact. We talked about this a little bit. I really like this image of this dog sitting in a fire burning. And that's often what it feels like for me to stay in contact is, am I willing to sit, like question I ask myself is, am I willing to sit through the pain, fear, sadness, and discomfort without knowing what will come of it? Am I willing to do that? And if I'm not willing to do that, maybe I'm not ready to reveal my withhold. And also giving each other permission to go out and come back in again. So say we're in this processing, we've revealed stuff, and we're now in this like in between state of the reveal has happened, but we're still not feeling connected with each other. And we might want to give each other permission to like go out and come back in again. And maybe when we do that, we'll get a chance to, like something else will come up that maybe I didn't share, or I'll get to see it in a different light, or I'll give a chance to own something. So yeah, that's important to be able to go out and come back in again. Here's a quote. Decker Konov, founder of Authentic World, calls it rock bottom when members of a community are willing to share withholds with each other whenever they notice judgment or disconnection, and stay in contact so that the community becomes stronger through that truth. So Provibers is a community. Like this is like where we're trying to go, is that if as a community we can all share withholds with each other in service of connection and growth and aliveness and all these different points, then we get a chance to be mirrors for each other, to do even collective shadow work. So we all grow stronger, we all develop more, we all get a chance to feel more connected through this capacity to reveal withholds with each other. So that's kind of the main intention of this whole thing, is how do we increase our capacity to reveal and receive withholds with one another. Projecting versus owning my experience. This is a giant topic. Basically, projecting is this idea that my experience of life, of this moment of connection with you, is different. I'm imagining it is different from what your experience of life in this moment and our connection is. And if I instead believe that like everybody else experiences this world the same way that I do, then that is me projecting my internal experience onto others, and assuming that because it's true for me, it's also true for everybody else. And often if I'm projecting, I'm believing my assumptions are right. If I'm taking responsibility for my projections, I'm aware that my assumptions are unchecked and may be wrong. So projecting lacks curiosity and can lead to confusion, this like distorted perception of reality if we're all just projecting on each other in an unaware way. Whereas owning is checking assumptions and gives an opportunity to find growth and to become more aware of my shadows, because like judgments that I have of someone else actually, like in a really strong withholding relationship, I can share judgments of someone. For example, that I could be really self-critical, like really critical towards someone, but then if I turn it back on myself, I'm like, wow, actually I judge myself in all of those ways, and actually I'm a really like self-critical person, so therefore I'm really critical of my friends and my family. So yeah, I learned through this process that judgments that I have about others actually say more about Garrett than they do about the other people. So when we're revealing withholds with each other, we're practicing making that withhold more about the person that's experiencing it and less about the person that's receiving it. So this highlighted part, when I reveal, I'm telling you about me, not about you. And it's really hard as a receiver to receive a judgment and really make it about the other person. It's very, very difficult, but that's the intention. Okay, top reasons for withholds gone wrong. Problematic motivation. So if I'm coming into revealing a withhold and my genuine motivation is not actually connection, it's just that I want to dump my truth on someone, then I'm unclear about my motivation. And yeah, that's often like an issue. Oh, do I want to share an example? Yeah, I do want to share an example. So I posted some resources about withholds a few months ago, and one of my friends messaged me saying, hey, I shared, like, you inspired me to share a withhold with someone. She said, she called her frenemy, that she'd been withholding for 10 years. And basically it was around how this person, she perceives her to be fake, and also like gets a lot, she's like jealous of her because she always gets the attention from all the other boys, all the other guys in the room. And there was something she was withholding for 10 years with her, and she's still in connection with her. So because she was inspired by something I posted, she just sent a voice message to that person saying, hey, here's my withhold. And then apparently like it didn't go very well, and the person was kind of triggered by it. And then my friend was asking me, Garrett, what was wrong here? And basically we learned that her intention, she actually had no intent to continue a relationship with this person. She wasn't interested in developing their connection more. Her intent behind it was actually because she just wanted to get something off her chest and like dump her truth on her and leave. So instead, if she was aware that that was her real motivation going into it, she could have checked in with her friend and said, hey, I realized that I have this withhold, and I actually don't think, like, I've been holding on to this for 10 years, and I just want to get it off my chest. I'm actually don't think I want to continue a relationship with you, and it might be challenging for you to hear this, but it would be more so for me to get something off my chest. I'm wondering if you're open to hearing it. That's a way that she could have been more transparent about her real, genuine motivation beforehand. Okay, point 2. Another top reason for withholds gone wrong, non-consensually trying to fix, change, or heal someone. So when I'm revealing a withhold with someone, like a judgment or something, if I'm trying to change them, if the reason, again, the motivation behind me sharing with them is that I want them to change somehow, then that can be problematic. Especially if I didn't ask consent before, like, hey, can I offer, like I realize that I want you to change in some way. Are you open to hearing this? Instead, we want withholds, again, to be more about the person that's experiencing the withhold. So, and less of this kind of like trying to change somebody else. And if so, that motivation is also needs to be revealed. Another one is unowned projections. So usually if something that I'm sharing is unarguable, then I'm owning my experience. I'm taking responsibility for my experience. But if it's arguable, if I'm telling someone something that's arguable, usually then that can create defensiveness and argument. Number 4, lack capacity to give each other empathy. This is a big one. If I'm in a state with someone that we both are like have conflict with each other and we want to reveal withholds, but we both lack capacity to listen to each other and to give each other empathy, and we both actually have this like deep need to feel heard and seen, then maybe we won't have the emotional bandwidth to support each other in feeling seen and heard. And in that case, we might want to like wait for a time that we both feel more resourced, or we might want to ask a friend to mediate the withhold with us so that the mediator can step in and give empathy, give reflective listening when we're not able to give it to each other because we both just want to be heard and we're not listening to each other. And the last part is another for withholds gone wrong is speaking only from the head. So if I'm not sharing from my feeling body and I'm just sharing like all my stories, thoughts, assumptions, and nothing about how my body feels in connection with them, it's also a way that things cannot go well and maybe not give a chance for connection and for us to feel that relatability of our common humanity. As an example, going back to that one example of like a friend asks if she can kiss me, I notice that there's tension in my stomach, in my chest, and my throat as she asked that, and I can just reveal that, like, wow, like as you asked that, I feel tension in my belly, chest, and my throat, and so like my body seems to be a no. And that's a lot easier to hear than me going straight into my mind and giving all these reasons of like why we're not like a good fit for each other, or like what's up with the relationship dynamic, or all these different things. Like I can just start from my body, and that's usually a lot easier to hear. It's just unarguable. Like my body is feeling this way. I don't have control over it. So I'm a no. Okay, ready to reveal checklist. So this is a useful resource for before I reveal a withhold with someone, I can go through this checklist and, okay, I'm going to start this over actually. A common question that comes up when people are learning withholds is, how do I discern when I should reveal versus withhold? So I have this internal experience. How do I decide like if I should share it or not? When should I reveal my withholds? When should I withhold and sit on it longer? And this checklist helps with that question. So if I can answer yes to all of these boxes, then I am ready to reveal. And this is more of a guideline. It's not to be taken completely strict, but I think it is useful. So if I can check to all these statements below, I am ready to reveal. Number 1, my genuine motivation is connection. So my intention is to deepen connection with you, not to try to fix, change, or heal you in some way. Number 2, I have the capacity to give empathy and compassion. In this moment, I have the resources and emotional capacity to hold space for any unknown reaction. I will reveal my withhold from a place of sincere caring, compassion, softness, love, and noble intentions. Number 3, I will take responsibility for my emotions and projections. I will use phrases like, I have a story that, I imagine that, you seem, in service of making sure that I'm speaking from my experience and not making assumptions over your sense of reality. Number 4, I will stay in contact. I am willing to stay in contact. I will stay in contact for an agreed upon time while clearing this, and my intention is to maintain and deepen my contact with this person. I will not dump truth bombs and walk away. That's something that I have done in the past and did not go well. And yeah, just to pause on number 4, I will stay in contact for a moment. So when I was first getting into Withholds, I shared a Withhold with a friend that was like extremely difficult for her to hear. And we even had a mediator. We had 2 friends holding space for us and tried to do our best to set everything for the container, but it didn't go well. And she was left like traumatized for a year before we were able to like come back and like process more with each other from a healthy place. And eventually it did we have found connection since then. But what I realized, like why it didn't go well, was that my motivation was not connection, first of all. And also I was unwilling to stay in contact because I actually didn't want to be her friend anymore. I didn't want to have communication with her. I just wanted to like share this and get it over with and leave. And so that wasn't cool. I should have at least known that beforehand, so I could have given her a heads up that that's also part of my motivation behind revealing. Number 5, I am willing to be wrong about my assumptions. I know that I might have incorrect assumptions, stories, projections, interpretations, etc., and I'm willing to own these and accept other perspectives. Number 6, I am willing to live any potential consequences. For example, it makes sense that I might not be ready to risk losing my job or my marriage in service of revealing a withhold. So that makes sense. Actually, I showed the revealing withholds model to Dr. Susan Campbell, who wrote the book Getting Real, which is an awesome book. And she looked through everything and she liked it all. And she's like, yeah, but I would add another part to this checklist, which is it's actually reasonable to me that people don't reveal a withhold if they're going to lose their job or their marriage, or like some kind of big thing. So just yeah, finding some acceptance and willingness for that. And so what if you're not able to click yes for all of these boxes? 2 options. You can self-reflect more. You can journal more about your withhold. You can go back to which we're going to go through in a moment, the transformation process from a raw to skilled withhold. You can practice revealing it with a friend, having them role play the other person. You can meditate more on it. You can also consider asking someone to mediate or hold space for your process. Another option, if you do all this and you still are unable to check certain boxes, like for example, if I still was not able to check the box that my genuine motivation is connection and I'm willing to stay in contact, then what I could do is when I make a request of that person, asking if they'd be willing for me to reveal a withhold with them, I just need to let them know beforehand, hey, I noticed like I didn't check these boxes. Like I don't think I'm willing to stay in contact, and I noticed my motivation is actually more self-serving and this other thing. Would you still be willing to hear it? And their answer might be no. They might say yes. So yeah, we're getting to the end of workshop 1, and I have this minimal metrics of success slide because I think if you forget everything in this entire PowerPoint, like what I would want you to leave with is just this word withhold. I hope that the word withhold can be added to your vocabulary. I don't understand how intimate relationships can function without a concept of what withholds are, because from my perception, we all participate in withholding. It's happening all the time in connection with each other. So this gives a word to describe what is happening. And so we may as well be skillful about how we withhold and how we reveal. So I hope, again, that the minimal thing that you leave with is just this word withhold and being able to notice, yes, that's a withhold that I'm having. maybe acknowledging the fear, like that's why I'm not revealing it, and then consciously choosing to reveal or withhold. Because if I'm imagining that for a lot of us before we learn about withholds, it's not a conscious choice. It's just stuck in this like withholding pattern. But I'm hoping that now this can become a conscious choice to reveal or withhold. Okay, I just took a little break and now we can get back to the advanced skills that we did in workshop 2. Okay, actually this is a continuation of workshop 1 a little bit, but yeah, well, I'm going to go over the full revealing withholds process. So this is like a gold standard, or I don't know if that's the right word. This is the like best way it could happen theoretically. And I would invite you to go through this full process at least one time with someone when revealing a withhold, just to practice and be aware of all these different parts. And ideally, these all become just a part of your toolkit and you use all of these tools in a more organic way. So this was built from reverse engineering, like what are just really strong withhold practices and trying to figure out like what are all the different pieces in a really strong skilled withhold reveal. And so yeah, here's what we got. So there's 3 different sections. One is to, so I'm just going to make sure this is recording. Oops. Okay, I think it is recording. Okay, there's 3 different sections to this process. The first is self-reflection. Second is setting context. And the third is the reveal. So in self-reflection, it's starting with discovering what you're withholding, like creating awareness like around what your withhold is by using this digging for withholds questions. Because if I'm not aware of my withholds, then I don't have a choice of whether to reveal or withhold. And often when I ask someone if they have withholds in connection with someone, they might say, I don't have any withholds with you, or I don't have any withholds with them. And to me, that's always bullshit, because from my perception, there's always withholds in connection with others. It's just my lack of awareness that they're there. And as Susan Campbell says, I can only be as honest as I am aware. Okay, number 2 in self-reflection, transform your raw withhold into a skilled withhold. I'll go over that later. 3, complete the ready to reveal checklist. Then setting context, get informed consent to reveal your withhold. Number 5, agree on a revealing process. Number 6, now you're ready to reveal. So reveal your skilled version of your withhold that you already transformed from raw to skilled. Number 7, the listener, the receiver, reflectively listens until the revealer feels complete. Number 8, the receiver consensually shares impact. Number 9, they both have dialogue until they both feel complete more casually. Then share appreciations with each other. And then if they both have the capacity and the desire for it at the end, they can flip roles and the receiver now can reveal a withhold with the other person. But through this entire process, the focus of attention is on the person revealing the withhold. And this is all made about the person with the withhold. So the listener, the receiver, actually has a lot of responsibility because they have a lot of their own personal experience coming up, but it's really important that they just keep this process, this attention focused on the person with the withhold. It'll be their turn later to reveal a withhold if they both have the time and capacity afterwards, or they might set a time later in the future to reveal. So digging for withholds. These are just some questions you can go over on your own time that I think can help you dig for like, I don't think I'm withholding anything with this person. If you go through this list of questions, you'll probably find something that you're withholding from them. Second here, transforming from a raw to skilled withhold. So once you already know vaguely what your raw withhold is, now you can start working on transforming that withhold from raw to skilled. And you can see that there's a link on this slide that you can click on that has way more detailed steps of how you can go about this process. So you should be able to answer. My suggestion would be start out by first writing down your raw withhold in just your own way. Don't even look at these questions. Just write down, my withhold is blah, 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 blah. And just flush it all out. And then once you've done that, come back to this this slide and go through all of these questions. Withhold, what have you not shared with me? Fear, I mean, you can go over these on your own time, but just make sure that all of these questions are answered. Treat this like the person that's receiving is asking you these questions. Actually, I will go over them just in case people, are audio only. So withhold, what have you not shared with me? Number 2, fear. How come you didn't share this with me? What was your fear behind withholding? 3, motivation for revealing. Why are you telling me this? What do you hope it is accomplished by revealing with me? Number 4, observation. What specifically and objectively happened from your perspective? So with observations, what could a video camera have picked up that is unarguably true? Unarguable is a keyword there. 5, feelings. What emotions and sensations do you feel in your body in connection with me? How do you feel in connection with me when something happened? So that's making sure I'm speaking from my feeling body. Projections. What judgments do you have of me? What assumptions are you making? So it's likely that you have projections, and make sure that you share those as well. Desires. What are you wanting in connection with me? What do you want me to do? So these are my wants. They could also be my needs in terms of nonviolent communication. And then making a really clear request. So it's really important that in my withhold, I have some kind of request that summarizes my withhold and that I'm willing to hear a no to, and that is very specific and tangible and actionable, and we can know whether it was done or not. Often requests do not meet that criteria and are like very vague. But your request could just be, would you be willing to reflectively listen what you heard me say? Like, can you just tell me what you heard me say? And like we keep going back and forth until I feel complete, and then you share impact at the end. Because my desire might just be that I want to feel heard. So my request is that, can you reflectively listen and then share impact at the end? Is that something you'd be willing to do? And then an option for like, for reciprocation. Am I willing to hear honestly how my withhold has impacted this person? Am I willing to receive a withhold that they have with me? So after I've transformed my raw to skilled withhold, I've answered all these questions, I've reflushed it out. Now I'm going to go to the ready to reveal checklist and make sure that all of these points are checked, which I've already gone over, so I'm not going to do it again. But a big piece here is like, am I owning my experience? Are there any assumptions that I'm making that I'm not checking? Is there anything that I wrote down that they could argue with? Because if there's anything I wrote down that they could argue with, then it's likely that I'm not owning my experience. Number 4, part of the process, get informed consent. So the way I perceive it is that I am in the top 99.99th percentile of skilled withhold revealers on this planet. And as that Spider-Man quote goes, with great power comes great responsibility. So often if I ask someone, hey, Bill, would you be willing to hear a withhold that I have with you? Usually, in my experience, they always say yes, or like, yeah, sure. even if I share a little bit of context of what a withhold is, and pretty much always they will say yes. And so what that tells me is that like they're not actually giving, what does that tell me? Okay, so there's been times that I've asked people if they'd be willing to hear a withhold from me. They say yes, and then I share a judgment with them or something that's hard for them to hear, and it hurts a lot. And then they're asking like there's some kind of regret on hearing that from me. And so I think it's fair that that happened because, or okay. Am I going to give an example? I'm not going to give an example. If so it's my responsibility as the person that has more experience with radical transparency and radical honesty to like use my own intuition for whether this person actually has the emotional capacity and personal resources to hold whatever it is that I'm sharing with them. So like getting consent, getting a yes to reveal is not enough. I need to make sure I'm getting informed consent, and that's actually my responsibility to use my intuition of whether or not they actually have the capacity to hear it. And another little tool here is that when you're asking for consent, you can share a headline right about what the withhold's about. So often if someone has a withhold with me, they'll say, hey, Garrett, I've got a withhold with you. Are you open to hearing it? I might be like, can you give me a headline first? And then they give me a little bit of a topic like, oh, it's related to that workshop that we facilitated together and what it was like to do that with you. And they might share like, oh, it's a judgment that I've been sitting on for like the past 3 months, or it's related to the relationship with this person. But if they share a headline, then I at least know generally the category that it's going to be in, and then I can give them more like informed consent over whether I'm ready to hear that now, should create time later, or that I'm not willing. Number 5, agree on a revealing process. So before we get into revealing, it's important that we agree on a process. So are we, some questions you can ask are like, okay, first the guiding question is, how do we want to reveal? And some things that you can think about are, do we want a mediator, or do we want to do this alone? Do we want to have like a structured revealing process where we agree to, for example, both like reflectively listen and share impact in a certain order, and then share appreciations at the end? Do we want to agree to some structure, or do we want to have a more organic free flow with shared intentions? For example, okay, we're just going to do this free flow, but we both want to like make sure we're taking responsibility for our experience and owning our projections. Like that's something we want to intend on doing. Or maybe we just go into organic free flow without shared intentions. But for example, with some of my friends, we were like so used to reviewing withholds with each other that we can just any moment just go right into it without any kind of structure or intentions, because there's just we can do that with each other. So that's up to you. But agreeing on a process is important. For example, yeah, if I'm a withhold that I shared with a friend the other day, he said to me, oh yeah, like don't worry about like owning your experience, don't worry about delivering in a certain way, just give it to me raw. That's what he wanted. So that's what I gave him, and he had the capacity to hold that. So reveal your skilled withholds. This is basically going through the same process that we already did for the transformation process. And just remember to take responsibility for your emotions and your projections, and to check your assumptions. So reflective listening. The receiver, their role is to show up as a reflective listener to give attention to the person revealing. And the way they can do this is through reflective listening, which is basically just responding back with the word for it, paraphrased version of what they think they heard, with or without interpretation. And usually, so the listener, if they're reflectively listening well, their only response as a reflective listener is either tell me more, tell me more, tell me more, or what I hear you say is, what would you add or clarify? So tell me more. What I hear you say is, what would you add or clarify? And keep going. Like, this process just keeps going back and forth. It might even go back and forth like 5 or 6 times until the revealer feels understood and complete. And the key word here is complete. I feel complete. Do not share impact until they feel complete and ready for impact. So again, this is the responsibility on the receiver, the listener, to just listen. And even though they have all their own things coming up of like, I don't agree with that, this is actually my experience, their responsibility in this moment is just to keep that to themselves and just reflectively listen, because they will get a chance to share impact later after the share feels complete. So next step, the receiver now gets a chance to consensually share their impact. This is not a chance to reveal an entirely different withhold with this person. You should be just focused on sharing feelings or thoughts that came up for you while listening to the person. So it's like present moment impact. Like, for example, here's some prompts that you can use. Being with you right now, I feel. I felt you the most when. Something I think I get about you is. Projections I have are, or assumptions I'm making are. The purpose of sharing impact is that it closes the loop on connection. So often after someone shares something vulnerable, they're wanting to know how you were impacted and where you stand in connection with each other. So without this impact at the end, if I just reveal the withhold and I don't get to know where the other person is or what they're feeling or what they think, I might just be left with this vulnerability hangover and guessing at perhaps making up the worst about how they receive that. So it's really important to share impact to close the loop on connection. And then 9th step is to dialogue until you both feel complete. So this is more of an organic free flow. You can go back to reflective listening. You can go back to clarifying some of the revealing. The main point is to come to a place that you both can say, I feel complete. And if you never get to that point, you can agree to take a break and reschedule another time. Or you could, for example, if you get stuck in a loop with someone or a group of people and all of you aren't feeling complete, you can ask for a mediator. You can ask for someone to come in and mediate the conversation, because they might be able to shed some light on that foggy interpersonal mush that you might be in. And lastly, share appreciations with each other. I think this step is really important. So something I appreciate about you is. And then ending with the option to reciprocate a withhold. So switching roles. And some cautions I would give for that are to be careful about diving into a second process if the first one was intense and left you both with limited resources, and consider planning a time to do it later. The second caution is that if the receiver, it's assuming that the person that revealed themselves did all this prior prep work of transforming from a raw to skilled withhold. They went through the revealing checklist. They did all this prior work. It's likely that the receiver did not do all that work for their withhold. So just checking in with each other if that's okay, if you're consenting to hey, I haven't like done all this work beforehand, but I can kind of reveal the more raw version of what's here, and if that's something that you're both willing for. Okay, now we're getting into the actual advanced revealing withhold stuff. I'm just going to pause and take a little break. Okay, last section of this PowerPoint. So this are the advanced revealing withholds skills. So this first one is withhold power moves for manifesting dreams. So I wrote an article about this, which is at the bottom, which is one of my most proud articles if you'd like to check it out. It's right here, 3 authentic relating power moves to level up your life. But really, they are revealing withhold skills. So from my perception, increasing these numbers today will help manifest my dreams in the future. So 3 things: dreaming big, saying no, and making bold requests. So first, dreaming big is if I can increase the number of moments that I give myself to dream big. So if I'm unaware of what it is I most deeply desire, like my visions for the future, my most wild fantasies and dreams for who I might become or what kind of life that I might have, I'm withholding that from myself. I'm withholding my dreams from myself. I'm withholding my dreams from others, from the world. So by intentionally giving myself time to get clear and build awareness of what my deepest fantasies and dreams are, then I can give my at least I'm aware of what those dreams are. So yeah, increase that number, which I give some examples in the article of ways that you can do that. Number 2, saying no. So now that I'm aware of what my dreams are, that even kind of hurt. I feel afraid to even acknowledge what my dreams are. Now that I'm aware of what they are, I can start saying no to anything that's unaligned with my dreams. So say someone asks me to take on some kind of project or some kind of role, or to spend time with me, or whatever it is, and I say yes when actually my body is a no, my soul is a no, it's not in service of whatever it is I'm moving towards, I might be withholding my boundaries. I might be withholding when I'm a no. I might be saying I'm a yes when actually I'm a no. So stop withholding no and start saying and revealing no. Third is making bold requests. So the number of bold requests I can make in pursuit of my dreams. And if I can increase the amount of bold requests that I make, then I could be more in service of my dreams. So these are withheld desires of others. So the way I think of this one is that right now in this moment, I am not fully leveraging my network and my friends for helping me get towards my dreams. This process helped me in the past year start Social Architect and start serving clients like Burning Man and Masterclass and Trans Zuckerberg Initiative and Mind Valley, and just from making a request for people to come to my demo. In the past, I also attended a lot of conferences for free just by sending a simple email to the organizer saying, hey, I can't afford to come to your conference, but I really want to come. Would you be willing for me to come and take pictures or do something? And how often that actually works, that I got into a $3,000 conference for free just because I made a bold request. Or I'd make lots of bold requests for people to introduce me. So for example, I've made requests for people to introduce me to Tony Robbins that I know that they're in their network, or to other celebrities or like people that could really help me. Okay, I think you get the point. Read the article if you're interested for more. Okay, 3 levels of conversation. So if you imagine that most conversation is split into 3 different levels or buckets or arenas, the first is informational. So these are the raw facts or data. It's just what is objectively true. So for example, if I were to share with you that I was in Costa Rica and Nicaragua for the past 6 months, that I came home just a few days ago, that I'm now in Canmore, Alberta, and I'm headed to Salt Spring. Those are all, if I have a younger brother, I'm from Canada, like these are all, I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, like these are all information. It's just the facts and data about myself. The second is personal and emotional. So these are thoughts or feelings about something in the past or the future. So when I add something that's personal, some kind of emotion, some kind of opinion to something that's happened in the past and the future. So for example, if I were to share with you that over the past few months while I've been in Central America, I've been feeling quite lonely and depressed. And in heading to Salt Spring Island, I'm feeling anxious and anxious and afraid because I haven't seen my partner in 6 months, and we have this like rocky relationship right now, and I just feel a lot of nausea in connection with her, and like anxiety in connection with what's happening. That's an example of a personal emotional share. I'm giving you a little bit more of a lens into my internal experience of something that's in the past or the future. And the last level is relational. So relational conversation is thoughts or feelings between us in this present moment. So for example, if in this moment right now, I mean, we're not actually in connection to each other because I'm doing a video, but if you say it had some kind of impact from what I just shared with you, like, oh wow, like when you shared about like your partner, I felt myself like soften, I felt sad, or some care, like that would be, or I felt like perhaps like warmth in my belly or something. Like that would be like present moment sharing. Like another example is like right now in this present moment for me, I'm feeling a lot of like dryness in my mouth and feeling hot. And I'm really looking forward to being done this PowerPoint. And I have this concern of like, oh, is this taking too long? Am I going through this for too long? Is this landing? I'm not sure. I hate doing videos. I feel kind of giddy naming that. Like that's all examples of what is true for me in this present moment. So the language of intimacy, like where connection happens the most, is in relational level conversation. And so when in the topic of revealing withholds, okay, so connection also can happen in all of these areas, but it's like the further right you go, like the more towards relational you go, like the more opportunity for connection and intimacy there is. So by revealing withholds, like withholds are present moment experiences that I'm not sharing. So revealing withholds in the present moment, like it might be something that's happened in the past or like thoughts about the future or whatever. Like that's one way to reveal withholds, like something like some kind of thing that happened before that I'm hanging on to. But it might also be in this moment, like what I'm withholding is that I feel bored, or I feel angry at you, or I'm still thinking about this like thing that happened in the past, or I noticed I missed completely what you said because I was distracted thinking about this other thing. Like that's all like present moment, like withholds that I can reveal in that moment. Or I'm feeling a lot of warmth in my belly and my chest, and like a lot of energy coming up in me, and I feel really attracted to you. Like that is an example of what a relational share might be. Or I'm judging this about you. Yeah, I think you get it. 3 levels of conversation. I did not make this up, by the way. This is an authentic relating model. Constructive gossip agreement. So if I am in a community that models and celebrates vulnerability and revealing withholds, we have a value for conscious, compassionate transparency. We might have a constructive gossip agreement, which means that I'm okay with my friends gossiping about me with other people. Like say they have a withhold with me that they're not really sure how to share with me. They can, like, I'm okay with them like sharing and processing it with someone else, and in service of getting clear on it or whatever, to get like one run through it so that they can get more clear and then share it with me. So it's this agreement of like I'm okay with like gossiping in service of getting clarity on withholds. So often if someone comes to me in a community or a friend that has something that they haven't shared about something, they start complaining about the person, I'm only willing to hear that if the next person that they're going to share it with is the person that they're withholding. And I'm also, like, another point here that's I don't think on this PowerPoint is people can give me withholds like unconsensually. So say a friend shares something with me about another one of my friends and they say, oh, but don't share it with them. Like, I want that confidential. Like, for me, that's bullshit. Like, because you just unconsensually gave me a withhold with my friend who I have a transparent relationship with, and I'm unwilling to hold that. So in a highly integral social group, when someone starts gossiping to you, the next question is always like, have you shared that with them? Or like, can I support you in getting clear on this withhold? Okay, next part here, withholds as mirrors for shadow work. So we talked a little bit about this before. So withholds can be used as clues to shadows that exist in the revealer or the receiver. Since shadows are the part of myself I don't see, it helps to have others shine light on them by revealing honestly. So for me, like one of the ways that I do shadow work is I have friends of mine that I trust that are like highly self-aware. They're aware of their own shadows. I trust that they've like done a lot of their own shadow work. They have the capacity to own their experience and take responsibility for their projections. I invite them to be shadow watchers. Like I have actually explicitly asked them to, can you be a shadow watcher for me? So I'm inviting them to at any time like share judgments that they have of me, to point out some shadows. Like for example, some shadows that I've learned about myself are that there's a part of me that is like narcissistic. There's a part of me that is like a tyrant, is like sadist, is will like not respond to someone and like emotionally withdraw from someone because I want to punish them for something that they've done to me. Like, these are some shadows I've like learned about like maybe over the past year or so. There's so many more, but it's because like I've invited my friends to point them out in me, because a shadow is something I can't see myself. And it's also important that with my shadow watchers, I try on their judgments of me. So this is like more advanced, because normally when revealing withholds, it's more about the person that has the withhold. But in this case, as the receiver, because I trust their self-awareness and I really trust where they're coming from, I'm actually going to try on their judgment and be like, does this fit for me? Like, even if it's really painful to own. Or if I have a judgment of someone else, of my friend, I flip that around and I start to realize like, oh, wow, this is how I'm judging other people. So these are judgments that I have of myself. And that's another way here as well. So there's a risk of gaslighting. Gaslighting meaning that to me, if I'm gaslighting someone, it's usually unintentional. It's, to me, very rare that there's like someone's intentionally gaslighting someone. And to me, gaslighting is that if I'm gaslighting someone, they're questioning their sense of reality or their sense of intuition because of how I'm responding. So they tell me, Garrett, I judge you for this thing. And I say, or they say like, this is how it happened in my perspective. And I tell them like, no, that's not how it happened. Like, that's not true about me, or something like that. I might be having them question their intuition and question their sense of reality, and in a way gaslighting. So it's really important as the revealer to own your experience and like really be looking after like, how can I, both the people are like, how can I respond in a way that has this person like really trusting and validating like their own sense of reality and intuition for what's happening in this moment, even if like my perception is different from theirs. Like, I want to honor like their internal experience. Power dynamics are withholds on hard mode. So if I'm in a down power role, I'm more likely to withhold. Think of any time you've been in a down power role with your parents, with your boss. Say you're living in a roommate situation where someone like owns the house. You're in a community group where there's other people that have higher social status because they've been around longer, they have more friends. Usually in connection with that person, when there's that power dynamic, I'm going to withhold more because I have some sense of like need in connection with them. Maybe it's a need for security. Maybe it's a need for like my social status. So as like being aware that I withhold more in a sense of a power dynamic. Okay, I'll give you an example. When I was living with this guy just over a year ago, and in his house for a month, and I noticed I was withholding so much in connection with him. Like, all these things would happen, but I would just be polite and not say anything. And even though I'm a fucking master of revealing withholds, it was so hard for me. It took me like 2 or 3 weeks to finally ask him like, hey, could I reveal some withholds with you? Like, these are what they are. And then I shared them with him, but it was like very vulnerable for me. And so just to give myself forgiveness when I'm in a power dynamic, especially in a down power role, that like it's a lot harder. So it's important to deconstruct power dynamics in service of revealing. And so both the up power person and the down power person can take on this responsibility, but ideally it's the person in the up power role that's taking responsibility for deconstructing the power dynamic, or at least doing some of these things like naming that there's a power dynamic. So I named that with my person I was living with. I named that I feel more afraid of sharing authentically with you because you own this house, this is your space, etc. So just naming that is like a part of our relational context in connection with each other. Second is you can invite, model, and celebrate revealing withholds with each other. So because I modeled revealing withhold with him, I invited him to share withholds back with me, and I celebrated every time he revealed with me. So you say he revealed something with me, it's really important. Like, if I were to respond in a way that's like, oh, that was bad, you really hurt me, like you shouldn't have done that, then they're probably going to keep withholding. So the more I can invite, model, and celebrate revealing with them and go first, then that creates safety for them to also go. Another part is regularly check in with withholds. So maybe on a weekly basis, like depending on your relationship, just having check-ins like, hey, it's been a while, like let's see what withholds we have with each other. And then up power roles should go first, but that's not always the case. It can also be the more skilled withhold person goes first, which is probably you because you're watching this slideshow. Going out and coming in again. I talked a little bit about this earlier, but Yeah, this I think is really important. When I'm in a process with someone, we give each other permission to go out and come in again. So to stop revealing and all this stuff and processing and give ourselves a chance to leave, and maybe I might something will clarify, or I might come back with something to add, or maybe I shared something that actually later on doesn't feel as true as when I said it. So I'm giving myself permission to come back and clarify, add, or change something. And actually, that's a key point: is that we're giving each other permission to like, okay, maybe you said it in a way that wasn't exactly accurate, but now you have it like more clarified. So it's like okay to kind of make mistakes. And remember, you can only be as honest as you are aware. There is no such thing as I have no more withholds. There are always more withholds. I want to encourage you to tell on yourself. So say I was like withholding something, and I told someone, I have no withholds with you, but I was actually aware that I did. I practice telling on myself. So later on I can be like, oh, actually, yeah, I did this, and yeah, telling on myself. And being willing to hold differences. So if I'm holding differences with someone, maybe we disagree on something. Maybe their experience of reality or this moment or connection is different from mine, and that can cause us to like butt heads. But we can, if we are willing to hold those differences, something else might emerge through that paradox, like through that holding. Revealing is and is not sexy. So I was hoping for this to be more of a discussion topic, but that's one part I get a lot, especially around like dating and yeah, like romantic intimacy, is that like, oh, if I'm just honest every time, like right off the bat, telling someone that I'm attracted to them or like my insecurities or whatever comes up, it kind of can take the flirtiness out of it. And fair, yeah, sometimes like it does take out the sexiness, but yeah, it just depends on your own values. For me, I find a lot of sexiness in the like very deep, real truth sharing with one another. And there's something that's like really intimate and like needed for that for me. And then I can like flirt from a place of like, okay, the truth has been established, of like we've been real with each other, and like now I can be in that flirty space. But I'd be curious about your reflections on this as well. And also, yeah, a key part is like, for example, with my partner, we made an agreement that it's okay for us to not be fully transparent with each other all the time. So I don't think that with revealing withholds that we should be like, no withholds is the goal. That is not the goal. The goal is to reveal them on maybe a regular basis, but to not have to be fully transparent with each other all the time. Maybe setting a weekly time to share appreciations, resentments, withholds, anything that comes up instead, so that you could be sexy in the other times. Paradoxical theory of change. So the idea behind this is that if I have the intention to change someone, I'm trying to fix, change, or heal them in some way, it might not work. They might just start to have this sense that I'm broken, I should be different, I need fixing, I need to be changed, I'm unworthy. So with this paradoxical theory of change, the idea is that when I stop trying to fix, change, or heal someone, and I just be with them and welcome everything that's coming up and just shower them with compassion and love and acceptance, and literally maybe even just silence, and not trying to give them advice, or like it can be so subtle. Maybe then they'll get the idea that how I am is actually okay. And if I get the idea that if I can reveal myself really vulnerably with someone really honestly about all my challenges and all this shit, and they don't try and fix, change, or heal me, I might get the idea that I'm okay. And through that feeling of okayness might be where transformation can happen. Permission to fight dirty. So with my partner and some friends as well, we'll give each other permission to fight dirty. So often I just get in these like loops of, because yeah, a lot of my strong relationships are very strong communicators. We can get so stuck in being like all conscious with the way that we talk with each other, and it might be missing like emotion and energy behind words. So for example, a week or so, 2 weeks ago with my partner, we said, hey, can we fight for a moment? Like, can we just fight dirty and not have to own our experience and just like blame each other and just let it out raw? Is that, like, can we do that? And we set out some time to like a container where we just fought dirty and just blamed each other, interrupted, like just let it all out, yelled at each other. And it was kind of funny. Like we actually, yeah, it was, in my perspective, it was like a breakthrough experience of actually feeling each other and then being able to close the fight dirty container and like be aware that like we're both aware that like we're totally projecting on each other, but like there was something about it that like energetically just felt right and gave us a chance to connect with each other that we might not have been able to get to if we were trying to go around all the hurdles of conscious communication. Low integrity cannot hide in containers of high candor. So often when I facilitate like authentic relating and integral circling immersions, I remember like one time in particular, someone shared that like very, very soon, I think it was within the first 3 or 4 hours, that he felt this sense that he just like couldn't hide anything from us because like we would just know. And it's so true. Like when we're in a container in a group where we just have a high level of candor, we have a high capacity to reveal and receive withholds. Like low integrity behavior, such as withholding, just or projecting, like unknown projections or whatever it is, just can't really hide. I've actually had people in my community back home share that they really hate like what I've done. One friend was sharing with another friend, or just a community member, like, oh yeah, I really don't like what Garrett's done with our community. And then my friend responded to him and he told me about it later. He's like, what, like bring more authenticity and integrity? And from my perception, it was like true that this, yeah, like there is some sense of like when the candor, when the revealing increases, like anything that's kind of low integrity or shady, like gets light shined on it. For example, if I'm in like some kind of, if I imagine it as like an office room or some kind of space where the light is really low, I might not be able to see all the garbage and dust and like rotting places, but I'm just kind of moving around. I don't see it all. In a space of high candor, high revealing, the light is just brighter. So I can see all the filth and all the shit, and like I have more incentive to go clean it up. Sweet. So those are all the advanced things. There are a little bit more here in the not included stuff, but I'll leave that to you if you want to go over that on your own. Thank you so much for bearing through if you got this far, and let me know if you have any questions. One of my favorite things to do in the world is help people process revealing withholds. So if you want to reach out to me about withholds you have randomly and process them, I trust that I would be able to honor my boundaries, but I'd probably be down for that. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Would also love to know if anything from this PowerPoint like really stood out for you, and like if you had an aha moment or something that say you take afterwards you take some of these lessons and go and reveal a withhold with someone, I would love to, yeah, just hear feedback from you of what that was like. You can post it in the WhatsApp or message me directly. Take care.